All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Triad Expeditions. And in this episode, we continue our Maverick X3 modification series. And our car is getting ready to actually leave the house here, and it will be en route to RC Enterprises, which is located in Springfield, Ohio. And you can reach them at rcent.com. That's their website. They are a well-rounded shop that we take a lot of our stuff to, and they really know how to do suspension very well. There's a lot of things that they do very well, but that's one of them, and more specifically, they know how to do off-road suspension. So we are going to trust them, as we normally do, to put together the front end of the car. And as you can see, if you hadn't seen the previous episodes, I had the front clip already removed for them. I have the bash plate there. We're still waiting on some more parts to come in, and so you won't see everything that we will be installing on this, namely the box high clearance CT Raceworks front arms and just a couple other small items. But I did want to show you the items before we take off, kind of talk about them prior to them being installed, because I probably will not be able to do all the documentation and discussion about these parts once it is into the shop, because they will be working on it as they are able to, and getting everything ready for our event that we have coming up very quickly. So definitely don't want to be in their way when it comes to that. So let's start with the first item. So this is the, and there's a lot of good videos, so definitely seek this out, but kind of in the interest of continuing to document everything that we've done to this vehicle and kind of giving you the whole story, that's why we're doing this. This is the Hess steering rack brace, and you can definitely find out more about that. Like I said, there's a lot of good videos out there, but I will talk about why we're doing this. These are the bushings. We'll talk about them in a second. These are the parts here. It has a Delrin slide, some new bolts, and some shims that it comes with to really tweak it in. What it does is it basically keeps the tubular steering rack that Can-Am gives you, that is less than perfect, that wears out quite a bit, and it actually will ratchet. So this keeps that ratcheting or twisting motion from happening, which ends up making the steering rack wear out very prematurely, very early. And even Hess will tell you that if you have a worn out rack, that you'd be better served to basically, this will not fix that. That you'd be better off going ahead and buying a new steering rack. So they actually sell them right there along with the brace. Between the brace and the steering rack, it's not a bad setup. And you know, I'm not trying to, I definitely like shock therapy. So when I say this, please don't take it as like I'm not recommending shock therapy stuff. But you know, it's a very pricey solution, the shock therapy rack, and so I decided a little bit not to go with it because of that. But you know, also there is some mixed reviews out there, so definitely look into that if you're trying to go between this one and the other item. All right, so the next item up is the CT Raceworks steering rods, and these have I'm not going to take it apart because it'll fall apart and I want to keep it together, but they've shrink wrapped or sealed them here so that they stay together. This will give a better geometry to your steering knuckles or hubs, whatever you want to call them, and eliminate some of the bump steer that is inherent to this car because of the steering rods that they give you. Does a poor job of doing that. These are much stronger than the OEM ones. I don't know if we'll be able to see. Yeah, we can see them. They're not bad. I've seen smaller, but really where it comes into is like the joints and basically the fact that they just use a very thin-walled steel. These are aluminum. They are engraved. They look very sharp. I can tell that they're pretty beefy because they have a pretty good amount of weight to them, even though they're aluminum. So that must be one really nice chunk of steel or chunk of aluminum there that they make those out of. So, all right, moving on. So these are the Delrin bushings. I think TMW Off-Road produces these, and they have a very nice grease channels in there, so you still need to use your original wear plates, so that is important when you do install these. These are much superior than the rubber bushings that they give with your suspension. So these are a not Delrin, they're some type of proprietary plastic that they use, but very nice. And then here, moving on, I ended up not going with the shock therapy front sway bar links. And that is one of the items that I could not think of it. That is one of the items that's en route, is the sway bar from Shock Therapy and the Shock Therapy springs. So that is something that we have not received either. Now these are CT Raceworks. They do have like a jam nut on the top and the bottom, and I don't know, but I think maybe the Shock Therapies, they're definitely built differently. But I do like the fact that they have USA made joints on them, and they are very nice. Shock Therapy brags that they make the largest joint sway bar connections, so I would be interested to be able to compare those, but obviously I can't. But these are very nice quality. These are gonna do perfectly. So I'm confident that they're going to be compatible with the Shock Therapies product. They do have like a little standoff bushing here to get it away from the sway bar, so obviously that's pretty self-evident there. They don't really come with instructions either. So, and that is some of the things that, you know, the people there at RC Enterprises are very good at what they do. They are able to install items like this with very limited amount of knowledge, because they're able to see the engineering in high quality parts, and so they'll be able to look through that. But I have provided them with quite a bit of instructions, and I'll be available as I've studied most of the instruction videos for these particular products. All right, moving on to the next product. All right, so this next product is the shock tower brace, and the one that we decided to go with was the S3 Power Sports shock tower brace. And the reason why, instead of like the CT Raceworks, is because this one actually advertises that it's compatible with the Smart Shocks. So that is important that you select the correct one. They do make it in a couple different models, so we hope that you know, that ends up being the case. So what this does is it goes on the front half of the shocks, and as you can see, they kind of give you like a cross brace here on the front of the unit that the radiator bracket, fan bracket holder, fan shroud, all in one, basically mounts to it. So that's how it hangs there. And I think this is better maybe than previous years that they've offered, but it's still not very good. And what the shock brace will do is it actually will run down behind this and brace the shocks, not only from just the rear of the shock tower, but from the front. So it kind of creates like a triangle effect, which makes it much stronger. And it sits on the front of the bulkhead of the unit itself, so that makes it much stronger. It actually, if you think of the front end like as a tubular rectangle where the diff sits inside there, this basically here at the front is going to rest right there at the front of that rectangle. So that is a nice part to have, and definitely will just make the whole front end much stronger. So, all right, next part. All right, so this next part is the TMW Off-Road Bulkhead Bracing, and there's a couple different companies. CT Raceworks makes one that's pretty good. Assault Industries does. The thing about the CT Raceworks one that maybe regrettably I didn't buy instead of this one was because it does actually bridge from the front to the back, and there might be a benefit to that. Now I do have the Smart Lock diff, so there is a consideration there that maybe it would not have been compatible, but definitely look into that yourself. So the big thing with this is this basically creates a double shear effect to your products. If you really want to know about the strengthening, especially specifically about the TMW, Shock Therapy does make a video called Bulletproofing Your Maverick X3. And this is one of the products that they actually list in there is this TMW. Now TMW, you know, they make some really nice stuff, and this is heavy duty gauge steel, very nice welds, very nice powder coating on it. Just can't say enough about the engineering behind this. Even the side plates, you know, are fitted in there before they weld them. So if you imagine, to kind of give you a real quick idea, since you're watching, is that this will go on the front of that rectangle I was talking about, which is the chassis, the tubular chassis. So it's kind of a rectangle that comes out. This sits on the front, and normally those arms, upper arms, just have a bolt that run through here that go into that bulkhead, and unfortunately that doesn't give any support to the arms if they decide to flex, and it just makes that front end just waller out. So if you haven't really looked into that very much and you're a brand new Maverick X3 owner, this is the right time to do all of this, because the holes on the chassis will waller out. That's not fixable. This will prevent that from happening. You actually have to drill some additional holes. I actually had it backwards, so this is the front. Some additional holes to hold that in. Just a really nice product. They give you some additional brackets. This will actually go to the rear of the lower arms that will brace that and make those double shear, and that tube will go over the top. This brace right here, I think this goes to the rear of the upper arms in the very back, I think, maybe like that, and then that double shears the rear part of your upper arms. So that's really nice. They give you all the hardware, very high quality hardware that they give you. There's a lot of hardware in there, so they're basically replacing the very substandard hardware that Can-Am uses to build their machines, and I know you've heard me be critical of that in the past. And then there's also some additional plates here, like backing plates and stuff like that, that are actual real gauge steel and not some stamped out, instead of, you know, these are actually plasma cutted, probably CNC steel of high quality. The other parts are basically stamped parts, so much cheaper to actually build. These are much more durable and way more strong. So this is kind of the backbone of the whole system. If there's really one thing that you're going to do to strengthen your front end initially, and you don't have the funds or the time to do the rest, even though you're tearing the whole car down, it would be more probably like a funds thing, because if you have to tear it down, you might as well do as much as you can. But this would be the one thing that you should do initially, just because this is going to keep some irreversible damage from occurring. So very good. Also, by the way, we are drinking a Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA. Been a big fan of this beer for quite some time, and if you're a IPA fan, this is definitely a great choice. One of their mainstay IPA flavors. So, yep, very good. All right, the last thing that we're going to show you is the worn winch, and possibly if it shows up here soon, it's on a FedEx truck en route, is the S3 Power Sports front bumper. And that is the wild card of this whole thing. So let me get the winch out, and I'll talk more about that. So here is the worn winch, and to kind of show you what it looks like on the box, this is the worn axle. And I know I briefly had showed you this before if you'd watched the previous video where we basically start the winch wiring. There is another video that will be released later after we've installed this winch and we've been successful with installing it. So look for that video to come out, but I am going to touch on it real quick here because I want to show you the winch without it installed. And I may even use maybe some of this footage here to in the winch video, so you're going to probably maybe see this in two different locations. So the 55S, I decided to go with this because, and I speak to this a little bit earlier in the other video, I decided to go with this because the vehicle is very heavy, and I wanted to go ahead and just go big or go home type thing. I figured it wasn't terribly that much more money to go with the higher rated winch, and I didn't think it was going to be a big deal because Blown Budget Off-Road had basically said that the 55S was compatible with the bumper, the Super ATV bumper, which will not be installed unless we absolutely have to. So that is part of this equation too. The Super ATV bumper with the eyelets and everything else that I'd seen in that video is actually going to be sold or trashed or whatever, because I'm not going to put it on there. I did not want to put it on there in the first place because of just how badly Super ATV had treated me with the drive shaft deal, with basically saying, well, you bought the wrong item type thing, even though what they were showing was not what I got in any of their videos or any of their photos. Even the product photo didn't show it. So yeah, I wasn't too happy. Obviously you can tell I'm still very bitter about that, but anyways, I have ordered the S3 Power Sports front bumper, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to make that fit. So I am going to test fit it before we take this over to RC, just so I can kind of get a heads up on what Justin will be up against at RC, as far as maybe having, whether it's very obvious that it won't fit. I did do the specs on the, just so you know, the winch that they actually show with it quite a bit is the it's not a super winch. Shoot, they do show the super winch 4500 in it. That is basically what Can-Am kind of labels, but I think that changes over time, so don't take my word on that. But I did see this, the front bumper from S3 Power Sports. It was one of their builds, and they had done the front bumper that I bought, and you'll see more of that later. I'll specifically show you the bumper and give you the model and everything else as we do like a product feature in the future. But they showed a winch by a different brand. It wasn't Super Winch, and I cannot remember it for the life of me. But that winch basically has almost the same dimensions as this winch. This is one of the largest winches that you'll see on the market, and partially the reason for that is because of the like the relay, the power unit, circuitry is actually integrated into the Axon, and that makes it extremely easy to install. And you'll see that in the winch video that I do about how easy it was and how ideal it was to do this. Now it's going to be all for nothing as far as hitting the easy button if this does not fit in the bumper and we end up having to do a lot of modification to the bumper mount to get it to fit. So I anticipate that will be the case. And then just briefly here to show you, once again, this being kind of the unboxing video or part of the winch video that I'll do. And maybe that winch video will just basically refer to this video. I think that's the way I'll do it. I'll probably just have the winch video refer to this video. It gives you a very high quality, like switching, handheld cable. Didn't really go into that very much, and then obviously the hardware. And I've included some 6-gauge terminals there that will need to be trimmed back a little bit because there is limited clearance. So those that have to be ran through the grinder if they have to be utilized. And a hydraulic crimper is also advisable for putting that onto the wire if you need to shorten it. And then they give you the hook. It would have been nice maybe for this top of the line model, especially for the additional costs, that they would have included the Epic hook. This is not the Epic hook. Epic hook, I am not gonna spend the money for it. I think it's about 60 bucks. This hook obviously is gonna work just fine, so I'm gonna go with that. So all right, well, we'll see if FedEx shows up here shortly. If not, I'll close this video out, and you'll end up seeing the bumper with the winch and the verdict at a later time. So the bumper arrived, and swapped up beers here. We're drinking some Voodoo Ranger IPA, which is excellent. And yeah, so the driver negotiated the driveway. Here in Ohio, we've had pretty significant amount of snowfall, and I know many of you have. So I was a little worried on whether or not he would be able to make it. So this, let me start by saying that this is the S3 Power Sports bumper, and I'm going to give you the item number, and just in case you can't make it out, I'm going to say it: 715-004-867. Front XMR bumper kit, black. All right, so XMR. All right, that kind of freaked me out a little bit because I was wondering if XMR, I forgot what that was, but that's the mud version. So yeah, so we're in good shape, I think. I mean, obviously I'm not going to publish this video. I'm going to wait on this video until I know everything has worked out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm basically just going to keep the footage, and then if everything worked out, you'll be seeing this video. So all right, I have put the winch within the bumper, and the biggest thing I can see is there's going to have to be some spacers, probably some additional washers or something on the bolts, and maybe the bolts will have to end up being longer, but it does fit. And the feedback that I'd got from Blown Budget Off-Road was that, well, it does fit, however, it broke my winch, which immediately I was like, well, that ain't gonna work. And he had said that that they had it on there for like a year. They had rerouted the cable and things were good, but you know, I didn't get a warm fuzzy about that at all. So this is a very nice looking bumper. Let me say that. And then the fact is that one of the challenges with the Axons, especially the 5500, but really just all the Axons, is they don't have as much of access to the way that the winch cable pays out. So meaning that where your fair lead is and where your cable is, where your synthetic cable is, if it is angled downward, it's going to catch the case itself. And the way that this is looking, and I'm going to line it up just to make sure, once again, the holes all look good down in there. And it's these side rails on this that is catching. So it's like this area, like right in here. So some of that might end up getting trimmed, but I'd rather see spacers so that we keep the integral part, like the side here, intact, because that's your strength, especially, you know, of your bulkhead. So I'd rather keep that intact and just use some longer bolts with some washers. So, but the angle, what I'm talking about with your fair lead when it comes out, is that if it comes downward too much, it's going to catch the case and it's just going to crack your case, and that's what happened. So he literally had, you know, his winch case just like cracked, and that's not good because it does connect both halves of the case. And you know, I wish I could well, yeah, I mean, I can stand it up, but you guys can kind of see, you know, what it looks like. It has the S3 emblem there, 4 Can-Am up on the top, so that's pretty cool. It's a beefy bumper. I'm just gonna throw this out here. Like, here's the other thing. After watching the step-by-step installation by Blown Budget, literally, like, this part of the bumper was just dangling out there with like a small, like, thin sheet of metal that was going up in there, and then you basically put like the bash plate of it, for lack of better terms, and then you bolted it together. This is all one unit. I didn't bolt anything together, so this is all one integral piece. That's the way it should be. Yeah, I just, you know, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say junk. Super ATV, absolute junk. I'm gonna freaking tell you, like, if you're buying a Super ATV product, you really need to do your research. That is absolute junk, and the way that those two pieces went together is not going to be nearly as strong as this. So don't buy it. Like, that's just my advice. I have been super disappointed over many years of buying their junk. I can't believe I did it again. In case you haven't watched the previous videos with the drive shaft, I had a rant. Look at our drive shaft videos. I'll tell you exactly in that video of how badly they screwed me in multiple ways on their piss poor designs. So yes, it needs to be in this video, and just quit buying their junk. Like, absolutely. People need to be warned. That's what this video is. It's a warning. So maybe yeah, I get it. It's like my second IPA. So, but yeah, that's not it. It's literally just being pissed off about just being screwed by Super ATV. So now I have two Super ATV products that are absolute junk, and I don't think I want to sell them. I think I'm literally just going to take them to the scrapyard, because I don't want somebody else like even wasting their time on them. I'll sell them for like damn near nothing. If somebody wants them, the front bumper and the drive shaft, they can have them. I'm just going to give it to them, because at their own risk they need to install them. But yeah, I think I'll probably just take it to the scrapyard, because that's literally what it's worth, is the scrap price. So about I think I probably lost about $500 because their stuff is junk. All right, so enough about that. Yeah, this is exciting, because I think this is going to work great. So we will see. I know Justin is up for the challenge at RC Enterprises, and the next part of this video will be showing you guys how it worked out. I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. Don't buy anything. Don't buy anything. I will let you know. I'm gonna close this video out, and I'm gonna let you know later in a separate video of how this all turns out. But she is ready to be loaded on the trailer, and she is ready to have some of her final mods done to her, and I'm super excited about it. And we're looking good for our schedule. I hope Shock Therapy comes through. I hope CT Raceworks comes through. I think they will. No worries with Shock Therapy. They said they're shipping quicker and plenty enough time. CT Raceworks, very busy people. I get it. Yeah, so we'll see how we do there. Either way, this thing's gonna be put back together. So all right, well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for sticking by for my rant and just allowing me to be pissed off about them. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to see more videos coming from us. We are publishing a ton of them, and later in the year we'll be going to Moab, Utah, and putting this thing over the Red Rock. I just can't believe how exciting that's going to be to have this thing and to be going through the Red Rock. We're buying some new cameras, so you're going to see some really awesome like 360 views around the side-by-side. So we're excited about being able to publish some 360 different videos. So yeah, all right, well, thank you very much. Take care, be safe.